Good afternoon, baby. Excuse me. Welcome to Simply Stacy, where the joy of the Lord is our strength. Well, I want to talk about a Facebook post I put up this morning. And my Facebook post goes out like a blast to different websites and all that type of thing. I put it, on my Twitter, and it usually goes on my YouTube and different places that I posted at. But this morning, and I know this is like a dirty word to some women and even some men because men have to submit too. And the post went like this: every relationship is about submission. Can you submit? Because this is the only way to godly relationships of all kind. Now, I said this with uh, taking into account that I'm talking to people that are in God and that they understand the topic of submission, not just in a marriage relationship or in a covenant with another person of the opposite sex, but that's why I said of all kind, because we have to submit to God first of all. We have to, even in friendships, we have to submit. You have to submit even in friendships because you don't agree on everything. So you just sometimes just have a listening ear and hear their point of view and understand it. That's a part of submitting. And that's why a lot of friendships don't work because people don't submit. But we must, yes, we must. And I'm making this video to kind of like clarify a little bit more of what I was saying in that statement and to really touch on this subject because it's really a touchy subject with a lot of people. And I do see this every day. And this is why a lot of people's relationship with Christ is on that borderline. Like they're hot and they're cold. And God said you can't be lukewarm, he'll spew you out. And that's part of you submitting your will unto God. Most people don't submit their will unto God. We have to submit our will unto God to do his will. There's no getting around it. We have to. We have to. Because our will most of the time conflicts with the will of God. Because us as people, and this is just human nature, this is just part of our flesh. Our flesh wants to do what it want to do. This is why I done got such a rise out of this with the submission. Because our flesh want to do what it want to do. It don't want to hear nothing about submitting. The spirit and flesh is always one against each other. Because our flesh don't want to submit to the spirit. And most of the time we feed our flesh more than we feed our spirit. All the time. So what you feed gonna live, what you starve gonna die. God said Christ is the head of man. Man is the head of woman. And on and on and on. God's kingdom has order. I would never tell anybody to submit to a demonic spirit or submit to somebody that is in error or submit to somebody that's going to lead you the wrong way or submit to somebody that's not walking in the fruit of the spirit, submit to somebody that's don't have a good character. No, I'm totally against all that. I'm talking in the context of submitting to a healthy, whole person that is submitted to Christ. Like women. A lot of women got problems with submission because they don't submit it to demonic spirits. They didn't submit to a man that was submitted to Christ, which is his head. See, like now, I'm waiting on God because I'm waiting on God to send me a man of God that is submitted to Christ. So that when he's my head and he's my leader, and when I submit to him, which I will do humbly, wanting to, not kicking and fussing about the situation, because I know that's the will of God for my life. That I'm out here desiring a husband. See, ladies, you out here desiring a husband, but you have to make sure that you're willing to submit to that husband. Now, if you pick the wrong joker, that's not God's issue. If you don't allow God to send you a godly man in your life that is submitted to Christ, that's not God's issue. That was your choice because you got it out of the will of God. And that's what happened to so many women. They get out of the will of God. We do this. We do this. I've done it. Either knowingly or unknowingly. Like me, I unknowingly went out here and chose a mate out of the will of God. I got married at 18. That was not the will of God for my life. And I had some information, but not enough for it to click for me to know not to pick that type of mate. Like now, I'm mature enough to know not to go get a man that's not submitted to Christ. There's a lot of men in church, just because they go to church and they're saved, they're not submitted to Christ. A lot of females are not submitted to Christ. Or they may submit one area of their life, but don't submit another area of their life. We got to submit all of ourselves to God, mind, body, and soul. We got to submit to the will of God. And when you don't do that, there's no way that you're going to be able to have godly relationships. That was one reason I put that statement up there. You will not be able to have a godly relationship without submission. When you read the Bible, it's all about submitting, not just the female, the male too. We have to submit. We have to submit. And when you feel that part, that kicking in you because you have not submitted all yourself to Christ, any mature, healthy person will tell you that you have to submit. Even leaders got to submit. When you out here being a leader and a pastor in the church and out here in the community and all these different types of things, there's a lot of things you want to say to people. There's a lot of things you might want to do. But you have to, a person that wins souls is wise. That's that's part of submitting to God's love and submit to his way. It's a lot of leaders out here that don't have patience. But to be a good, effective servant leader, you have to get patience. That might not be a desire of your flesh, but it is the will of God because it is one of the fruits of the Spirit. Love is patient, is kind, and is gentle. So many of you ain't patient, you ain't kind, you ain't gentle. Why? Because you're not submitting your will to the will of the Father. Your will is to be frustrated, to lose your mind, to lose your cool, to argue, fuss, to rush. But the Spirit of God, the fruit of the Spirit, is to be patient, kind, and gentle. But most people's flesh go against that principle because why? They're not submitting that area to God and his will. See, when you begin to submit to God and his will, it'll be easy for you to submit to a relationship, a healthy relationship. I'm not talking about this dysfunctional stuff. See, that's where people get it twisted because all they don't been in all these dysfunctional types of relationships. So when you talk about submission, all they thinking about is the raggedy relationships they've been in through being with a partner, a husband or a wife, or some of them been boyfriend and girlfriends, or with their friendships. They've been raggedy. So when people hear this word submission, that's why it's so dirty to them because all they can think about is the relationships that they opened their heart up to because they didn't guard their heart. And that's out of a lack of knowledge and understanding of not knowing the fruit of the Spirit because a lot of these people show you who they are when they come in your life. But because you don't understand the fruit of the Spirit, you don't understand people's character, you choose the wrong people to hang with, to submit to. You see it every day. People chase after ungodly folks all the time and submit to them. Roll with them, you rolling deep. You don't submit it to it. You look at TV. If you look at TV all the time, all this trash is on TV, you don't submit it to a demonic spirit right there. This music that you listen to, you don't submit it to it. We submit to a lot of things. You don't submit it to your job. And some of y'all know these jobs ain't right, but you don't submit it to it. Some of these jobs got you lying, stealing, all different types of things, but you don't submit it to that thing, to that job. People submit to all types of things, but they think they got freedom. No, you're submitted to it. You out here, you can't keep your flesh under subjection. You up here laying up with every Tom, Dick, and Harry, every Susie Cusey. You just submitted to that demonic area in your life right there. Submit to all types of things. But I'm talking about submitting in the context of a godly submission. and submitting to somebody godly, submitting to things that are godly. It's a big difference. So once you realize, okay, this is a godly person or this is a godly situation, you can submit. But babies, you're not going to be able to submit, and it's going to be a dirty word to you until you learn the fruits of the spirit, until you know the God that you serve. And the only way you're going to know the God that you serve is you got to submit to his will. You can't continue to do your will and do your way. You got to submit to God's will and his way. And then submission won't become a dirty word to you. Submission is not a dirty word to me. Even when I get a husband, I'm ready to submit. I'm ready to submit because I know that's God's will for my life. You know, a lot of women out here is praying for husbands all over this earth, especially here in America. Everybody wants a relationship. Everybody wants a boo. Everybody wants somebody, but they're not willing to submit. And when you are a woman of God or claiming to be a woman of God, there's ways that God wants things to be done. He has order. So if you don't follow his rules and regulations, you don't follow his will, you step out of his order, you begin to be cursed. That's why your situations ain't working out because you're not doing the will of the Father. You're doing your will. You don't submit it to your will and not God's will. Babies, this is just a big topic. And I will be revisiting this because right now I'm just like, I put that out there and I'm just going with the spirit right now, what God has given me. But submission is not a dirty word. Submission is a blessing in submitting. You know, even as being in a leader in a church and a pastor in a church, you got to submit to being a servant. A lot of people want to be out front and want to be in positions and want to be leaders and all these different types of things because they want people to serve them. They're building up their own throne. They're building up their own altar so people can submit to them. But really, they supposed to be submitted to their congregation. You're supposed to serve them. That's a type of submission is a type of humbleness and meekness also. That's another definition to submission. Look it up. It's not, it seems like a dirty word when you take it in the context of, it's just like you going into slavery and somebody making you do whatever they want you to do. No. When you got a true leader or you got a true man of God that's your head and your covering and coming to protect you and he's treating you like Christ treats the church, it'll be easy for you to submit. You'll want to. You'll humble on down because you'll know that he got it. You won't have to fret. You won't have to worry because you're going to know that he's not listening at the enemy, but he's listening at Christ, which is his head. But see, you got to know that. You got to know that before you submit to them. Babies, I love you, and so does God. Smooth your sugar woogers. Just know that submission is not a dirty word. And just know what you're submitting to. Even God. Do you know the God you say you serve? Most of you don't. He says, study to show yourself approved. That you will be a servant that won't be ashamed. You got to rightfully divide the word of truth. Some of you got to get the truth first to be able to divide it, but that's a whole nother topic. But babies, just know that submission is not a dirty word. It's a beautiful thing. It brings blessings. Just like I want to use this as before I go. This just came to my spirit. Just like men, most men don't want to get married. They kick against that. That's the devil. But God tells men that the woman is their favor. This is why some of them ain't getting blessed. This is why some of you fellas ain't getting blessed because you don't want your favor. You want to chase everything else but your favor. You running from your favor. God said, he that finds a wife finds a good thing. Her price is far above rubies. And he obtains what? Favor with the Lord. Some of you want different types of things, but you rejecting your favor. That's your favor. Going out here being a woman's covering. That's your favor. But you reject favor because that's the trick of the enemy that don't want you to go out there and get your favor. You get your favor, honey, you'll be blessed beyond measures. When you choose to go out there and be a covering for this woman that God has put in your life. And that's the same thing with submission. Some people run from submission, but it's a blessing in submission. You'll get favor after submitting. I need the right thing. I need in the right situations and not just in man-woman relationships. All right, babies, I'm gone. Love you, sweeties. Smooch your sugar wookers.